everyone, welcome back to another video. As I promised, today I am bringing you every single weapon for Warrior and Mage here in the brand new Orbital Outpost dungeon for Dungeon Quest. Yes, this is a little bit delayed because I did actually upload quite a few different videos. I did all my loadout videos and everything prior to uploading this. I am very sorry, but this actually took a lot more work to get all of the information for. So we're just going to jump straight into the video today so I can show you all of the weapons. Before I start, I just want to say only around 24% of people that actually watch my videos are currently subscribed. So if you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing and be notified every single time I do post a video. It is free to subscribe and you can always unsubscribe if you do not like the type of content that you see here. But it really does help me out because I am on the road to get 100k very soon, and I would love to see that come in the future and obviously bring a lot of you guys to my channel. So yeah, if you want, make that subscribe button gray and turn on the notifications. But already messing up. But other than that, we're gonna jump into today's weapons list. Obviously, I'm just gonna put a little disclaimer here. Every damage listed here is just the average damage that the weapon is meant to do for their respective class. So for example, a warrior class weapon would mean it focuses on physical, whereas if it's meant for a mage, it's in spell power, yada yada yada. Wanted just to put that disclaimer out there. So we're gonna start off with the insane, and we're just gonna be going like a warrior mage, just going up the ladder of the sell prices and the levels. So without further ado, we're going to start with the first one being Blazing Star. And a Blazing Star is a melee weapon in Dungeon Quest, and it specializes in physical power, dealing a base average of around 1,300,000 damage, and the Blazing Star can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power. It can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold and requires players to be level 140 to equip it, and can only be obtained by completing the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. So if you want a little bit more extra information, obviously requirement level 140, base sell price of 40 million, physical damage base is 1,300,000, and this also has a spell power base of 1,000 if you are looking for those little bitty heals as a warrior, because this is a warrior weapon. I'm going to do the first mage weapon today, which is going to be the ELECTRON Spell Dagger. And the ELECTRON Spell Dagger is a magic / mage weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in spell power. Having an average of 1,300,000 base spell power, the ELECTRON Spell Dagger can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power. It can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold as well, and requires players to be at least level 140 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. This is required level 140, base sell price of 40 million, a physical damage base of around 1,000 if you are looking to get those hits in, and a spell power of 1,300,000. We're going to move straight on to the next one today, which is going to be the dual solar blades, and they are a melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specialize in physical power, dealing a base average of 1,450,000 damage. The dual solar blades can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 140 to equip it, and this item can only be attained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. But this one has a base of spell power of 1,000 for the heals as well. So the next mage weapon is going to be the Void Spell Dagger, and the Void Spell Dagger is a magic / mage weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in spell power, having an average of 1,450,000 spell power, and the Void Spell Dagger can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power. It can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold and requires players to be at least a level 140 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. And this one also has a physical damage base of 1,000 as well. And we're just gonna jump into the next one. So these are gonna be the final two insane swords and melee and mage weapons for this dungeon. So this one is going to be the Solar Katana, and the Solar Katana is a melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in physical power, dealing a base average of 1,600,000 damage. And the Solar Katana can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and obviously power. and can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold and requires players to be at least level 140 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. And that was our final melee. So here is our final mage weapon for this dungeon, which is the Void Spellblade. And the Void Spellblade is a magic weapon here in Dungeon Quest, and it specializes in physical power. In magic power, oh my goodness, having an average of 1,600,000 spell power. The Void Spellblade can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 40 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 140 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on insane difficulty. So that is all of our insane weapons, and we're going to be moving on to the nightmare weapons. Before I do though, people wonder why I speak everything out and don't just show it on the screen. I say everything in level requirements, spells, bases, and everything like that because some people can't actually watch the screen, and I always like to describe things in detail when it's coming to these types of stuff because it's not fair if someone can't watch it because of that. So yeah, the first nightmare melee weapon is going to be the dual crystallized knives, and the dual crystallized knives are a melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specialize in physical power, dealing a base average of 1,800,000 damage, and the dual crystallized knives can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty. So we're getting into level 145. These are all going to be level 145 other than legendaries. So the first nightmare mage weapon is going to be the Moon Crystal Spellblade, and the Moon Crystal Spellblade is a magic / mage weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specialize in spell power, having a base average of 1,800,000 spell power. The Moon Crystal Spellblade can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty. So we have 4 more weapons for nightmare other than the legendaries, so we're just going to jump into them, and this one is going to be the Void Greatsword. And the Void Greatsword is a melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in physical power, dealing a base average of 2,100,000 damage, and the Void Greatsword can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power. It can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty. And this one has a spell power base of 1,000 as well. It looks like all of these are averaging around 1,000 spell power for those little mini heals, and same vice versa with the melee ones. So this next one is also a mage one. It's going to be the Energized Spell Dagger, and the Energized Spell Dagger is a mage weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in spell power, obviously, having a base average of 2,100,000 spell power. The Energized Spell Dagger can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and this item can only be obtained after defeating beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty. I'm starting to get tongue-tied as I'm saying all of this. Oh my goodness. So this is going to be the second best warrior weapon that you can currently get in the Orbital Outpost dungeon. This is before the legendary, so if you get this in a purple variant, you are very, very lucky. And this is the Solar Greatsword. And the Solar Greatsword is a melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest, specializing in physical power, having a base average of 2,400,000 damage. The Solar Greatsword can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power if you really want to, and can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and the item can only be obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty. And this yet again has a spell power base of 1,000 if you are looking for that. And so this is going to be the best mage staff in Orbital Outpost other than having the legendaries. So this is the Solar Essence Staff, and the Solar Essence Staff is a mage weapon here in Dungeon Quest and specializes in spell power, having a base average of 2,400,000 spell power. The Solar Essence Staff can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage and spell power, and can be sold for a minimum of 55 million gold, and requires players to be at least level 145 to equip it, and obviously only obtained after beating Orbital Outpost dungeon on nightmare difficulty, and it has a physical damage base of 1,000. So these next two are the legendaries for this dungeon, and the legendaries are the best weapons to obtain in that dungeon. Obviously, we've had a ton of other videos like this, so if you want to see the other videos for this, you can go back on my channel. I've uploaded every single one of them for every single dungeon, so we're just going to jump into this. So the melee legendary for today is the Galactic Dual Blades, and the Galactic Dual Blades is a legendary melee weapon here in Dungeon Quest, specializing in physical power, having a base average of 3 million damage, and the Galactic Dual Blades can be upgraded with gold to improve its damage, and you can sell it for a minimum of 75 million gold, and requires players to be level 146 to equip it, and the item can only be tamed obviously in nightmare mode, and the highest potential weapon for this so far is around 4.1 million damage, and it was obtained by a ton of people because unfortunately these are being duped right now. There's a lot of them being a 3.89 or 3.94 being duped in the community right now, so if you are trading for them, please make sure it's not a duped weapon. Obviously there is nothing that we can do about that per se, because we can't stop people from having weapons, because it's just not fair if we just get rid of them all in the game for that, but please keep that in mind. And we're just going to jump into the mage legendary, which is going to be the Galactic Pike, and the Galactic Pike is the legendary mage weapon for Dungeon Quest and specializes in spell power, having a base average of 3 million spell power, and can be upgraded with gold to improve its spell power and sold for a minimum of 75 million gold, and requires players to be level 146 to equip it, and obviously obtained after beating the Orbital Outpost dungeon on Nightmare. But the highest potential for the Galactic Pike currently seen is owned by Poppy_Buckwheat, and that was a 3.95 million, and it was found on the Dungeon Quest Discord, and this is just ones that we have personally seen. Yet again, these are being duped right now, so do not trust trading if you are getting these, because you're going to have a lot of history of people using the same images and the same screenshots, and just everything is just going wrong with the legendaries right now. But just a fair warning to you guys there. So what did you guys think of all of these weapons? Which weapon is your favorite? Are you running as a mage or a warrior this time around? And will you continue in that into the next dungeon, or will you switch? I know my friend had a full purple set of mage and he switched to warrior, which is absolutely crazy, but I'm personally sticking with mage, as mage is the best, and as you guys saw, I am terrible at warrior. Just putting that out there. So within the next few days, you will see the armors come out. You will see obviously speedruns come out, because we beat the official speedrun record for this dungeon, and we did it with Vinny. So that makes it 10 times better having the owner help us defeat a record. But yeah, if you guys liked today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys are brand new to the channel. Also hit the notification bell if you'll be notified every single time I post a video or start a stream. And I hope you guys have a lovely day or night, wherever you guys may be in the world, and I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Bye guys!